Good morning and welcome back to Gaming with ADHD. We are here for the first of what I hope to be an ongoing deep dive series, where basically, because of the fact that I can't sit down and make myself just read a book for hours, I've decided that I need to give myself homework. So, basically, this is going to be because I want to I want to actually read some of the books that I've been purchasing over, I don't know, the last 40 years. And so I wanted to start this new deep dive series. And for that, I decided to bring on my friend, there we go, Seraphis. There we go. Because he actually is interested in a lot of the same stuff that I am. Now, Seraphis is not going to be the ongoing co-host forever, but I'm going to rotate co-hosts. So if I do some BattleTech or some riffs or I don't know, what else do I have a lot of James Bond. I have the old James Bond RPG.
Or Shadowrun.
Or Shadowrun. I was trying to pick things that Seraphis isn't necessarily a fan of. So he wouldn't feel like I was excluding him.
Yeah, but when I'm not on, I can watch still, though.
So. Yes, you're allowed to watch Seraphis. That's true. You'll be here in chat. Exactly. So anyway, so it's going to be a little bit different, folks. We're going to try some different things, and hopefully they don't suck. So that's the general idea for how we're going to approach this deep dive. I will admit I'm ripping it off from how Legion of Myth does RPG Digest on Sundays, but we're going to try to do it a little bit different and see how that works. So anyways.
It's not ripping off, it's an homage.
Exactly. We're paying tribute to those who have come before. Exactly. All right. Now, one thing I do want to ask in chat, if please let me know how my sound is. I've been getting a couple of comments on my videos saying that it's not so great. Also, this is sort of a testing the waters kind of video, so it might be a little short, might be a little chaotic, but we'll figure it out. So, yes, Malachite, Ninjas and Super Spies. That absolutely should be one of those, but we'll see. All right. So, by way of introduction, Seraphis, who are you?
Some long-haired git from a fake country that occasionally puts stuff out on YouTube.
All right. Seraphis, the procrastinating space pirate. His channel is linked in the description. If you have not subscribed to him, he is on that journey that we in this space have all been on before to get to his own 1,000 subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed to him, go check him out. He likes to cover the Cypher system and Numenera. So he's a little weird like that, but check him out anyways. So,
but I'm never going to get my channel monetized because I say the naughty words too many times.
There's a lot of channels that say naughty words too. So it's fine. Okay, that's funny, Malachi. Seraphis is a drow. He comes from the land down under. That's great. Well done, Malachi.
Well, my ears are pointed.
Yeah, but you're that weird albino drow, apparently.
Well, no, I'm a proper drow because realistically, they would go albino because they're not getting sunlight.
I get that, but that's already breaking established lore. So, but speaking of, we'll learn more about drow being abnormal anyways as we get into Eberron. So, anyway, so what is your background in role playing?
Pardon?
I said, what is your way to pay attention to the discussion there, Seraphis? I said, so what is your background in role playing? Again, I'm trying to. People might not know you, so I'm trying to get you a little bit of an introduction.
Okay. So I started around like properly without like being shoved onto a table and like randomly playing a game one day and then not going back there and occasionally it happening again and whatnot. Properly started playing in like 1998 ish.
Okay.
My friends and I at high school, we started playing Shadowrun, and that was awesome. And
That would have been
we
second edition, right?
that would have been around second edition, I reckon. Yeah.
Okay.
And we were also playing MechWarrior 2 at the time as well, the video game. And when we were in the hobby shop that this entire city has, that one at that one time, now there's like 3 within like 10 minutes of me. But like back then, there was one in the middle of the city down this one arcade, and everyone knew where it was. You said you're going to go pick up a Shadowrun book or a BattleTech book. Everyone knew where you were going, basically.
There wasn't anywhere else to get it. Yeah, no, I remember that growing up. Like the first role playing book that I bought was like was literally a at a it was a hobby shop, but and it's selling like model kits and stuff like that. I didn't even have any friends saying, here, we're going to do this. And like, they would like guide me to other places. So yeah, I totally get like, yeah, there's this weird mystical place to go get the stuff.
Yeah.
So,
and while we're in there kind of looking for a new Shadowrun book to get, one of my friends yells out, holy crap, there's a MechWarrior book. And we come around and it's one of the technical readouts. I'm pretty sure it was like 2045 or 2051 or something like that. And we started like looking across the aisle there, and there was more BattleTech, and we found our home basically. And pretty much from then up until my mates kind of began moving interstate, we had been playing Shadowrun and BattleTech I would say at least once a month for over 15 years.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, we probably went through like a dozen characters. I mean, because like the first Shadowrun module we picked up was freaking Bug City, Chicago. So you
started small.
Oh yeah. We went through. I went through about 4 different characters before the end of like the first arc of that module. So like, yeah, oh look, my character died. Thankfully, he's got a cousin. Another cousin turned up. Like at that point, I was just basing it on like the actual size of my actual family, and just going like, well, technically, I've got like 50 cousins. I mean, he could have 50 cousins too. So another one comes, another one comes. Like they're all different, but like, how do you keep introducing people who know these this line of dead people? Another cousin,
right?
And yeah, I mean, while we're at high school, we found the basic box set for D&D, and then conversely, we found that they had some second edition books as well, and because they both said D&D, we figured that you could use them together, so we kind of got a hammer and made it a nail and smack those 2 things together until we could make something that worked. But yeah, so there's some D&D there. We had always meant to go back because we had seen Traveler there as well. and we'd always meant to go back to get Traveler, but we never ended up doing it because we love sci-fi, and this game was apparently about spaceships and flying around, so we wanted to check that out. But I think we just kind of ended up doing that in BattleTech anyway, when we just kind of started playing Mercenaries. So yeah.
Cool. So obviously you've got a deep role playing background, so that's awesome.
Yep.
So so tell me about your first interaction with Eberron, since that's what we're here to talk about.
Okay, so that was probably around 2007. I was in the hobby store because at the time I didn't know if any other stores had started picking up RPG stuff, so I always just kept going back there. And I had seen that they had, I think it was the Magic of Eberron book on display.
Okay.
And I saw that and I was like, that artwork is awesome. Whoever did that needs like a pay raise. Like, that is kick-ass artwork.
I have to agree. The original art style for Eberron, for those covers, especially because everything was almost identical. Like, they change up colored palettes like a little bit, but it still had that same, like, it was very noticeable, very identifiable. Like, oh, that's an Eberron book.
Like, and not only that, like, you could always identify the characters on there. Like, Wayne Reynolds' attention to the characters he was making. Like, I mean, the picture that you've got up there, you know that Warforged is Azim. You know that little dwarf artificer there is Thundred. They always appear the same every time they appear in each one of his art pieces. You know, you see Book, the Warforged wizard, you always recognize him because of his red cloak and his crystal staff. You always recognize these characters. That is an amazing bit of continuity with the artwork. Something you couldn't always have inside the book, but yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, obviously you're going to get different artists, but I think, didn't Wayne Reynolds do most of the cover art pieces?
I think all of them for Eberron, yeah.
Yeah, it's, if you look at all the covers, it's very consistent across the board. So yeah, very. Anyways, okay, keep going on how you found Eberron, and then I'll tell my story.
Yeah. So I saw that, and I had every intention to go back, and basically, because of life and finances, that never ended up happening. And by the time I had the chance of getting something again, 3rd edition was over, and 4th edition was happening. Now, just for context, I never got into 3rd edition. I never got into 4th edition because, in my opinion, Wizards of the Coast was that card game people, and I didn't want to buy a role-playing game from them. So I stand by that. But anyway, so I found that someone was there was in the eastern states. I'm in the central part of the fake country, but in the eastern part of the fake country, there's a lot more stores, and there they had an online store was selling off all their Eberron stuff for 4th edition, and I was like, "Holy crap! Yes, this was a steal at like $40." And
sure,
I grabbed
Australian folks.
Yes, Australian. Like keep in mind, like the player's handbook and stuff for each new edition is selling for like $70 here. So like $40 for the 4th edition core book and player's book for Eberron. That's a steal, basically. But yeah, so I had those for a bit, and then because of some unfortunate stuff that happened. That stuff got put into storage, and then everything in my storage unit got sold off. So I then lost all my stuff.
Oh, I did tell you that I have those 4th edition books for you, right?
You mentioned that you had 4th edition books.
No. I have, like, we talked about it. I have
but
I have a set of 4th edition books for you.
Oh. We'll talk later.
Right. I mean, I'm not shipping them to you. So anyways, but I have them, just so you know.
But yeah, like, so I mean, I wasn't going to be playing 4th edition. As I said, I didn't like the Wizards of the Coast card people making an RPG. I didn't think they had the skill for it. A tradition I still maintain. But like, I liked the idea of this setting. Like, to me, reading the stuff about it was like when I first got into D&D with the Dragonlance novels, the original. You have no idea what the cost is, man. On my side of things. I mean, Grim already told me I couldn't have $2,000 for last night to come over and kill Brian when he showed off his snake eyes to me. And by the way, that's the airplane tickets to get to you, by the way.
No, I trust. I know. Anyways, keep going.
So, yeah, basically since 2015, I think. Basically, I've been collecting the PDFs of Eberron and having a lovely time. So I'm basically immersing myself in this world that basically just really has a lot of the world building stuff that I absolutely love. And not gonna lie, probably ripped off got inspired by about 80% of my own home game from Eberron. So
okay. And you're actually playing in a 3.5 Eberron. Well, I guess no, never mind. The way you described it, it's not officially an Eberron campaign. It's just an Eberron character.
My character is from Eberron, but the campaign is on a different world in the multiverse. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So yeah, so for me, like I got into Eberron because I was technically new to D&D. Everybody in our circles, they're like, "Oh, well, I played 1st edition back in junior high," or "I played, I was a big fan of 2nd edition, ran it all the time." And I didn't. So I didn't get into 3rd edition until after I'd graduated college and, got my first professional job and like I would email back and forth with a button because chat wasn't a thing at the time. So I was emailing back and forth with a friend of mine, and he got me into D&D. I got to go play a couple of times, and so I started picking up the books. And so I remember when Eberron came out brand new, I didn't have any attachment to Forgotten Realms. I didn't know what Greyhawk was. I didn't know anything, about it. And then they announced, hey, we're going to have this new setting, Eberron. And I'm like, okay, this looks kind of interesting. And so I literally started buying the books from the beginning. For some reason, I never bought the full collection, which is super annoying to me now, looking at some of the prices for those old 3rd edition books. But I always thought it was just this unique setting. I like the approach they took to it. I loved the art. Wayne Reynolds, like a lot of people, in my circles complain about the art getting a little bit more cartoonish starting with 3rd edition. But I really like the style for Eberron. It does convey that kind of noir, very much adventure-y, kind of a style. And so that's what I latched onto. I thought it was a fun setting. I thought it was a fun idea. And actually, Per mentions Dungeons and Dragons Online. I played Dungeons and Dragons Online when it was brand new because it was based on Eberron. I actually apparently it's still going. So I downloaded it and logged in for the first time a couple of weeks ago. It is clearly dated as an MMO, but it was still kind of interesting. I haven't gone back to it, but that's its own separate problem. Anyway, so for me, Eberron was just a fun, a fun approach to a fantasy setting, which I always struggle with anyways. Fantasy is not necessarily my thing, but I thought it was a fun idea. And so if anyone asks, what's your favorite D&D setting? I always go with Eberron, and everybody kind of looks at me. They're like, really? Okay. So,
that's because they don't understand it. I mean, on the first page that we're going to be looking at, we have a perfect example. I'm not going to name which one, but we're both going to know it. But in the movies to inspire you, the second column, second from the bottom, that's the perfect example of why Eberron rocks.
Sure. Yeah, no, actually what's funny is I looked through the list, I'm like, I don't think I've seen any of these. Then suddenly there's 2 movies that I've seen. I'm like, yes, okay, I'm not a complete idiot here. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is looking at that list of movies, even though I haven't seen some of the classics, I apologize, movie files out there. Looking at some of those, just that list of movies, it's those are movies that I love. They're fun, they're adventures. They don't get into the nuance of, well, why is the bad guy the bad guy? It's just, no, this is fun. Go have fun. And I think that does kind of epitomize what they were going for with Eberron. Go have fun. Here's a way to, you want to throw in a dinosaur? Cool. Have a dinosaur. Here's a good way to do it. And I love that.
Halflings.
Right. With why wouldn't you have dinosaurs and halflings? I mean, come on. No, exactly. It's taking some of those things that shouldn't work. Like by default, you're like, no, that's a dumb idea. If you think of it yourself, but they're like, let's do it. And, and then it sounds ridiculous and you're like, yeah, okay, never mind. I like this. This is going to be fun. So yeah, I am 100% in on what they did with Eberron, and so we will get into that as we go. So, all right. So now that we've yammered for at least 25 minutes, but clearly 4 people don't hate us, so we'll go with that. So, all right. So, let's see. Let's switch over to this one, and I'm actually going to change my camera a little bit. Hey, look at that. Here I am. All right, so folks, this is literally going to be a read through and deep dive. Now we're going to put in our commentary. We're going to talk about things that we want to talk about with this. So just keep that in mind. And apparently Malachi's out of here. So, all right. So we are literally going to read through this. If Wizards of the Coast wants to copyright strike us, I guess, I'm screwed, but oh well. All right.
Take it up with Keith Baker.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So today we're just going to do the introduction. We're not going to get into any of the actual chapters and meat. Again, this is an intro episode. But the plan is the plan is to cover maybe about 2 or 3 chapters in each episode until we get through the whole book. So, all right. So for the first section, prophesied by dragons, tempered by magic, forged in war. Welcome to the Eberron campaign setting, a world of swashbuckling action and dark fantasy designed especially for the Dungeons & Dragons game. This product is the result of the unprecedented campaign setting search that Wizards of the Coast undertook in 2002. We examined more than 11,000 one-page proposals from all over the world submitted by professional game designers and game design studios, as well as by dungeon masters and players alike. So this actually is one thing I do want to point out. So this was originally published in 2004. So we're literally on the 20th anniversary. I mean, probably not exactly of when it came out, but close enough, folks. But so yeah, this was an interesting approach. I think Eberron might also be the only campaign setting that was created by Wizards of the Coast. Like, I mean, obviously they did Dark Sun under 4th edition. They Forgotten Realms Greyhawk. I'm trying to think. Spelljammer, Dragonlance. Those are all TSR based campaign settings. I don't think
the only other ones I can think of are the Magic the Gathering settings that they did for 5th edition a few years ago.
Oh, and that's true.
Even then, though, that was already stuff that they owned because of Magic the Gathering. So,
yeah. And that I would consider more like a mashup as opposed to like trying to create a campaign setting.
Yep.
You know, not that it's not technically, but also, and actually, you know what? I'll put another caveat on it. You know, the fact that why did my brain just turn off? The fact that it was done under 5th edition, and I'm sorry, 5th edition has been crap for supplemental materials. It's like, oh, here's like 8 pages of content, and then the rest of it is all adventure. You know, maybe you can pick out some additional content in the adventure, but really, we're not giving you anything extra. So yeah, this is I think the only campaign setting that they've designed to be like Forgotten Realms, like Greyhawk, you know, anything else like that. So you know, anyways,
yeah, there we basically go. They haven't produced anything new. Eberron was the only thing that they made.
Yeah, which, at least for this, I think was the best of the choice. So anyhow, words. All right. So a committee of judges reviewed every submission and narrowed the field. The committee even selected 11 proposals and had the authors create 10-page versions of their settings for review. The committee reviewed only blind submissions. No names were attached to any of the review copies. From these, Wizards purchased 3 proposals and commissioned the authors to create 125-page story Bibles. Using these manuscripts as the basis, we selected the submission that would become the Eberron campaign setting. So this real quick, Keith Baker, Rich Burlew, and Philip Nathan Toomey. Now, Keith Baker obviously is the guy that created Eberron. Do you know who Rich Burlew is?
No, I don't.
Have you heard of Order of the Stick?
No.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. The Order of the Stick, it's a webcomic that has literally been going for like 25 years.
Oh.
Maybe not that long. I don't know. It's been going a really, really, really long time. So that's who Rich Burlew is. Philip Nathan Toomey, I meant to look him up. I I don't see anything. I mean, I know he did some work. His Dungeons and Dragons design work includes Monster Manual 3. I cannot find any other source material that he's worked on. Even his own stuff. This is weird. I mean, I guess there's every single link for this guy. Yeah, we can't find that link. Like Books of Million, Curious Water, poems by Nathan Toomey. I'm not sure if that's him. Maybe it is. I don't know. I literally can't find anything relevant for that guy. So, anyways, so Keith Baker, Rich Burlew, and Philip Nathan Toomey wrote the 3 proposals that made it to the final stage. Each one had something special that the committee believed would make a great D&D campaign setting. It's worth noting that none of the 3 finalists had any professional game design credentials when they submitted their proposals. The committee had to decide which one of these proposals to lead with to put the creative and marketing muscle of Wizards of the Coast behind for the release as part of D&D's 30th anniversary celebration. Oh, so it was released. Okay, I forgot. I know I'd read this when I read it a month ago, but I forgot. All right. In the end, Keith's campaign setting had an energy and level of excitement that really made the committee take notice. It was fresh and new while still being distinctly and recognizably D&D. We envisioned a different kind of campaign setting that would energize the D&D community and from which the DMs and players could loot material for whatever campaign world they play in. It was a bold and unique idea, married to the traditions of 30 years of Dungeons & Dragons. From Keith's creative kernel, the world of Eberron grew into the product you are now reading. So, that is our background. Yes, Sarah.
So I just need to point out, did you see that part where you can loot material for whatever campaign world they play in?
Sure.
WotC would never do that nowadays.
And I think you're right. It's like I said, I mean the supplements that they've put out, whether it's Spelljammer or whatever, they're not giving you like outside of the core books, the Player's Handbook, the DMG, and the Monster Manual. Beyond that, like anything you need, nope, it's here in your adventure. Just stay in the adventure. Yep. It's not telling you to go and create your own stuff. It's not giving you, they're not trying to just give you, hey, here's a place that might be interesting. Here's a few interesting things about it. Nope, run through our railroads.
Yeah.
So,
and you can't even say that a lot of this extra stuff that they make in like Tasha's or Mordenkainen's or Volos or whatever, that it's designed for the Forgotten Realms, because even Ed Greenwood says that the Forgotten Realms that Wizards of the Coast is doing isn't really his realms anymore. So it's whatever this version of the Forgotten Realms, this cartoony version.
Actually, so real quick, that's an interesting one. Apparently, until the rights holder, in this case Wizards of the Coast, but at the time TSR, until the rights holder made something contradictory, he actually has it in a license agreement that he can create stuff for the realms all he wants. Okay? And it's all official until they make something that contradicts it. So, that I think is kind of interesting. I don't think they've necessarily done anything that contradicts it.
Oh, no, they've brought people back to life that are dead in Ed Greenwood's version of the Realms.
Oh, okay. I don't... Again, I'm not a Realms fan.
But neither am I. I watch his videos.
That's fair. He's a funny dude.
Oh yeah, he's very entertaining to watch. That's why I watch him. So
Anyhow, so well, okay, so actually I'll bring this up real quick because I think it's related. What's next? Kender on Eberron. So I mean, yeah, well, so that's the interesting thing about Eberron. Like, it was literally supposed to be the kitchen sink D&D. Like, every single monster that's listed in the player's handbook, they literally, and we'll probably read this at some point, but it was literally designed so that if it's in the monster manual, it has a place in Eberron. Like we made the joke earlier about dinosaurs. Yeah, go ahead.
technically, Keith Baker has stated everything in the DMG Player's Handbook and Monster Manual from 3rd edition was meant to be part of a core world, or part of the core world in Eberron.
Yes, exactly. Right.
This can fluctuate when it comes to the other monster manuals, but for the most part, everything in each of those core books is in Eberron.
Right. And Malachi, what he's saying is that anything out of the core 3 books. I said monsters, but Seraphis is actually correct that yes, it's the core 3 books: Player's Handbook, Monster Manual, Dungeon Master's Guide. All have a place in Eberron. Even though they went with like because I think the planes are mentioned in the Dungeon Master's Guide, even though they went with like a different cosmology, they still bring a lot of the basic planes into Eberron. So yeah, it's literally supposed to be, if it was designed for D&D, it has an official place for it in Eberron. And like dinosaurs is the perfect example because they're listed in the monster manual, but you might not want to use them because it doesn't fit in your fantasy setting. Well, the Talenta Plains on Corvair, have dinosaurs running around, ridden by halflings.
Because why not?
Because why not? Exactly. And so yeah, it was literally a kitchen sink approach. And GM Cody in the chat, hello, sir. Yes, I am a bit of a noob, and you knew that, so deal with it. So anyhow, so yeah, so that is kind of one of those keys to keep in mind. So all right, so Seraphis is now going to take over. So
Huzzah.
Let's keep going.
And this is the tone of Eberron. The features that most set Eberron apart are its tone and attitude. The setting combines traditional medieval fantasy with pulp action and dark adventure. Make no mistake, the world of Eberron proudly takes its place among the D&D worlds that have come before, with a cinematic flair and an eye toward the best action-adventure movies ever filmed. The campaign's story elements were designed with this in mind, and we also built it into the game mechanics with the introduction of action points into the D&D game.
Nope, sorry. I was trying to respond in chat. All right, you should be clear.
Yep. The world of Eberron. I've got it up on my screen as well. So
okay, yeah, just keep reading. If I'm behind on scrolling, I'll catch up.
No worries. The world of Eberron has a rich history built on heroic deeds, evolving magic, and the wounds of a long, devastating war. In the wake of this last war, action, adventure, good, evil, and 1,000 shades of grey paint the landscape in broad, powerful strokes. And ancient mysteries await discovery so that they too can influence the world and its people. Magic is built into the very fabric of the setting. It pervades and influences everyday life. It provides certain comforts and conveniences unknown in either the modern world or any world of medieval fantasy. Great cities where castle... sorry, brain fart. Great cities where castles scrape the sky can be found throughout the continent of Corvair, and a thriving aristocracy of merchant families control much of the world's economy thanks to the edge given them by the mysterious and rare dragon marks.
All right, and so real quick, let's do this. So movies to inspire you. Movies inspired us while as we were creating this world, and they can help put you in the mood and mindset for a rousing Eberron adventure. The following films are just a few examples of movies that have elements of the tone and attitude we've packed into this campaign setting. Depending, we'll probably skip a lot of like the sidebar stuff, but I think this one is kind of important for people to understand. So they list Brotherhood of the Wolf, Casablanca, From Hell, The Maltese Falcon, The Mummy, The Name of the Rose, Pirates of the Caribbean, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and Sleepy Hollow. So I'm not sure if they're talking about the new Mummy or the old Mummy.
I reckon the one that they were talking about was the more recent Brendan Fraser one.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking as well. But I mean, like, they put Casablanca and the Maltese Falcon on there. I think they could easily be saying the old Mummy. So now I have to go watch the old one. But yeah, Pirates of the Caribbean and Raiders of the Lost Ark. Those are the only two outside of the new Mummy. So again, is it the new or the old? I don't know. That I've seen off of this list. I have some movies to watch. All right. Go ahead. Sorry.
So I've seen Pirates of the Caribbean, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Sleepy Hollow. Unfortunately, every version of the Mummy. From Hell, and I'm pretty sure I've seen Casablanca once. I think the only ones I haven't seen are The Name of the Rose, The Maltese Falcon, and Brotherhood of the Wolf.
Yeah, I'm a slacker. What can I say? So, but I have a list. I'll fix that eventually, folks. All right. Back to Sarah.
All right. Heroes come in all shapes and sizes, all classes and races. They travel the world, battling villains and recovering fabulous treasure, dealing with over-the-top action, harrowing challenges, cliffhanger situations, narrow escapes, and ominous mysteries that are likely to shed light on centuries of secrets, as they are to threaten the safety of the current day. The tome provides a portion of what sets the campaign apart from other D&D worlds, and this tone was first and foremost in mind as we built the complex tapestry that is the Eberron campaign setting. Even so, it is a same but different approach that allows us to make elements of the new campaign attractive to all D&D players. You can pick up Eberron products and drop large pieces of them into whatever D&D campaign you happen to be playing with minimal, if any, adjustments.
Which, as Seraphis has said, is easy to do.
Yeah. I mean, I'm currently plundering through the Explorer's Guide for the 3.5 game I'm currently in, and I'm currently looking at the giant items that are listed in there and going, the magic items that are listed in there, and being like, why is this so cheap? I can make this better. Oh, that got expensive. What if I make this a lot better? Oh, I don't have enough time in a year to make that item. Oh, okay, maybe just a one-shot item.
Right.
And this is me, a chronic artificer player, talking. So yeah.
Based on our discussion on Sunday, it's like, oh, they can do anything, and then we're talking this morning, and it's just like, well, there's this limit and that limit, and this isn't going to work for an adventurer. So that was pretty funny. All right.
Yeah.
The medieval world of Eberron is a place of magic and monsters where arcane energy infuses the landscape and greatly influences society and industry. Thanks to a mastery of the arcane arts, the great cities of the continent of Corvair contain skyscraping castles, elemental-powered coaches and carriages, and all manner of enchanted conveniences. Magic is industry across the face of Eberron, the innovative spark that propels society forward. The advances and conveniences made possible by magic augment the trappings of a medieval D&D world. Magic and the arcane arts allow for effects that in some ways mimic technological marvels that didn't appear in our world until the 1800s. I think. Okay, yeah, just art over there. So we'll zoom in over here. That is not what I wanted to do. Clearly, we are consummate professionals here. All right. Resembling a magical telegraph provides communication between two locations. An arcane analog of the railroad connects defined routes among the more civilized regions of the world. Magic exists to accomplish tasks otherwise impossible if you can find the right spell wielder and you have enough gold to pay for the privilege. As the campaign begins, the world of Eberron is emerging from a long and devastating war. The nations of the continent of Corvair were once part of a great kingdom of legend, the mighty kingdom of Galifar. When King Jarrett died, his 5 heirs, each in command of one of the 5 nations that comprised the kingdom, refused to bow to tradition. Instead of allowing the eldest scion to take the crown, the siblings rallied their vassals and individually vied to take control of the kingdom. Over time, this decades-long conflict became known as the Last War, for everyone imagined that when it finally ended, the taste for bloodshed and battle would be wiped from the face of Corvair. The Last War continued for more than a century, with each of the 5 nations alternately fighting against or alongside one or more of the others as animosities and alliances shifted like the winds in the Shargon Straits. In time, other nations formed as deals were made and opportunities presented themselves. After 102 years of fighting, the leaders of the recognized nations of Corvair, which now numbered 12, met at the ancient capital of Galifar to draft a peace. With the signing of the Treaty of Thronehold, the Last War came to an end. Today, the nations of Corvair seek to rebuild and prosper as the new peace spreads across the land. While technically at peace, the nations continue to vie for economic and political supremacy. Minor skirmishes break out every so often, especially in the more remote sections of the continent, and on the most hotly contested borders. Espionage and sabotage are the preferred method of diplomacy, since the nations engage in trade and discussion in public while working intrigues and double crosses in the shadows.
Yep.
So I think this is actually really good. Like this little section about the world literally just gives a great, like, hey, here's Eberron. Here's what's going on. Here are things you can do. And they don't dictate to the player what they have to do. It's just, here's a bunch of fun. Here's like pick a country. Be at odds with the other countries. Go nuts. And, you know, they're like, they give you options, which I think is very telling compared to how they, again, what we were discussing, how they do things now. So.
And I think one of the big things too, especially with that last paragraph, is that the game is basically, they're telling you straight up in the game that if you want to run a game that's heavy on utilizing your character skills, this is 100% the setting that will allow you to do that. That this game has that design of diplomacy, has that design of intrigue and spying, has that noir feel if you go like more to the ground of a city, or, you know, there's more chances for you to like use your listen check, to use your move silently check, you know, skills, you know. It has that chance more often in it, whereas in Forgotten Realm or Greyhawk or Dark Sun, you're not necessarily always utilizing those skills in your game. You might be using your class features or your picked up feats or whatever, you know. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, I think like, especially like when you get into like they immediately set everything like in Sharn. You know, that's like they have all the other locations, but they really focus on Sharn. And it does give that big city feel. Like you said, if you want to use move silently, if you want to use more, social stuff, you can do that. But then they're also like, oh yeah, by the way, this city is ancient. So if all you want to do is just go downstairs, there's a dungeon for you too. All in, again, kind of taking that kitchen sink approach. Let's stick it all in there and we can work with it. So
they did another city, right? Stormreach on the continent of Zendrick.
Oh, right. Yeah, right. And they right. So, and that was supposed to be like, yes, this is your launching off point to go into Zendrick, because Zendrick is even more ancient and has more dungeons. So yeah,
and more dangers.
Right, and more dangers, and Drow, Seraphis's people.
As we have established.
Right, exactly. So, all right. So 10 things you need to know, and we're going to go back and forth on these. So every dungeon master and player needs to know and remember these facts about the world of Eberron. All right, you're up first, Seraphis.
All right. Number 1. If it exists in D&D, then it has a place in Eberron. A monster or spell or magic item from the core rulebooks might feature a twist or two to account for Eberron's tone and attitude, but otherwise, everything in the Player's Handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, and Monster Manual has a place somewhere in Eberron. Also, this is the first D&D setting built entirely from the 3.5 rules, which enables us to blend rules and story in brand new ways.
Okay, that's actually an interesting point. Okay, the fact that it was designed specifically for 3.5, and then they make changes and they go, oh, we're going to go to 4th edition. We're going to go to 5th edition. And if you ask me, I think they broke Eberron by changing editions. Like, yeah, Seraph is about to burst here. You're allowed to talk, dude.
Okay. Sorry. I'm going to take a Battlestar Galactica quote phrased so that I don't demonetize your channel, but frack. All right. Okay. I read the recent Dragon Marks blog from Keith Baker, right? Because he had apparently been inundated with people asking, the new player's handbook has firearms in it. That means firearms are in Eberron. How do we account for this? And he said, flat out, in my Eberron, there are no firearms because they're pointless. When you can enchant a crossbow with a fireball spell and blast it at someone, not only do you have greater range, but you have greater accuracy and power with that weapon compared to a musket or a pistol of the new design.
Sure.
They have no point. And you're also going to hear the gun going off too. So you can't even use it as like a sneaky weapon. You're not necessarily going to hear a crossbow going off in like down a dark alley in the middle of Shan,
Sure.
But someone passing nearby will probably hear a pistol going off, So like for him, there was like, this new book, to him, pistols don't exist in Eberron, but if you want to have pistols, you want to have muskets in Eberron, sure, go ahead. But I am 100% with him that in Eberron, there aren't guns. This setting was designed for 3.5, using the 3.5 rules, the D20 rules.
So
other editions broke it.
I wasn't even going to say that. I mean, I think you could make a case for firearms in Eberron. I mean, not necessarily that you will, but I think you could still make a case for it. However, what I'm talking about are like, and we'll get into this as we get into some other things. Like, have you looked at the 5th edition rules for how to do dragon marks?
Yes, they suck.
Right. Like they
They're a
completely
substitute race. It's stupid. It's absolutely stupid. Just make them feats again, for crying out loud.
right. Which is really weird because 5th edition still has feats.
Hmm.
So why they didn't just keep the feat system? Because then they damaged or they destroyed the fact that there's lesser, greater, greatest, and Sybaris feats. Yeah, or Sybaris.
Oh, you say
marks.
Sybaris too. Oh.
Yeah, how else?
I never know how it's pronounced, so I've always assumed it was Sybaris.
Well, Malachi says feats are optional. I didn't know feats were optional in 5th edition.
Yes, they are an optional. They are a variant rule in 5th edition. Technically, in your ability score improvements at 4th, 8th, etc. levels, it's upgrading an attribute score by 2 or upgrading 2 attribute scores by 1. They don't actually include as a core feature having feats.
Interesting.
Or at least in the 2014 version. Apparently that's may have changed in the 2024 version, but
okay,
yeah.
Because I've done so much with 5th edition.
Yeah.
Right. No, but that's the thing. I mean, I think, but yeah. So like they've done like going to different editions just from a rule standpoint. They designed how to play Eberron, how to do things in Eberron based on 3.5. So I like the setting doesn't change, but I never got as excited about Eberron in later editions. I even like they're like, oh, Eberron book for 5th edition. I went, I bought it, I got the collector's edition. I don't think I've ever cracked it, So
Well,
anyways.
It's like how the Artificer works in 4th edition. If you read through it, like it's well, if Bear's still in the chat, he's probably going to hate me for what I'm about to say, but it's so video gamey in design, right?
Yeah.
Like 4th edition is a very good rule set for skirmishing games, for certain types of games. I don't think it worked very well as a D&D role-playing game system, though. But the design of the Artificer in that game was just horrible. And even without playing it, I always looked at that at what the class gave you in 4th edition and was like, this seems so stupid. And once I got my hands on the PDF for the 3.5 Eberron core rulebook and was looking at the Artificer, I was like, now this seems right.
Right, exactly. Because again, that's how it was designed. Like that's what it was designed for. It was designed with these rules. Malachi says dragon marks would have been better as backgrounds. You'll see when we get to the dragon mark section, but I am gonna 1000% disagree with you, Malachi. Just like not like background is no. The feat system is fantastic. I also liked because you didn't have to plan your character out to have a dragon mark. You could at 10th level or whatever, you get a feat. You could say, you know what, I want a dragon mark now, and you could do that. So, anyway, so I there we go. All right, let's move on. Tone and attitude. The campaign combines traditional medieval D&D fantasy with swashbuckling action and dark adventure. Alignments are relative gauges of a character or creature's viewpoint and not absolute barometers of affiliation and action. Nothing is exactly as it seems. Alignments are blurred so that it's possible to encounter an evil silver dragon or a good vampire. Traditionally, good aligned creatures may wind up opposed to the heroes, while well-known agents of evil might provide assistance when it's least expected to help capture the cinematic nature of the swordplay and spellcasting. We've added action points to the rule mix. This spendable, limited resource allows players to alter the outcome of dramatic situations and have their characters accomplish the seemingly impossible. And I think that's an interesting point where we usually talk about how there should be evil races, or alignment should play into things. I never really noticed it, and even when I did a read through a month ago of this section, I didn't realize that this was probably the first time where they were like, yeah, we're just gonna break all of that. Like you can do like even more of like where 3rd edition, like any race can be any class. Even with this, they stretched it out even more of anything can do it. Like, you could have a good vampire. No, there's no such thing as a good vampire. But with that said, I think in a noir type setting, you're supposed to have a lot more shades of gray, as opposed to like you can still have white hat and black hat, but there's supposed to be a lot more gray hat out there. So anyways.
And it's also kind of amusing too, because like one of those big conventions that they even talked about is that you can have good chromatic dragons, right? You can have a good vampire, but you could have evil metallic dragons. And I'm not quite sure whether it's in this book or whether it's later on in Dragons of Eberron, but like they talk about how all dragons are either good or neutral, because they all come from the blood of Sybaris spilling onto the body of Eberron.
Huh.
Yeah. And this is even more awesome. There is only one true divine race in Eberron, and they are the Coatl, because they're the only true children of Sybaris.
Huh. Interesting. Well, right, but I mean that I think is reasonable. I mean, dragons. I mean, again, we have dragon marks. We have Sybaris, Eberron, and Kyber. Dang, I always forget the last one.
Dude, like Kyber crystals.
I remember when we started the show and I talked about how I don't read my books like I should. Okay. So I've missed a lot, but we're getting there. Yeah, but no, exactly. I think it is interesting where dragons are so much intertwined in the world. I think you can do that. You can say, okay, well, there's not necessarily evil dragons. Maybe a dragon became evil, but in general, because of how linked they are to the cosmology, they are going to be more of a quote unquote good race. So anyhow, all right.
Although, just quickly, I do love the fact that in Eberron, Bahamut doesn't exist. He's a fairy tale, because Tiamat, otherwise known as the Underfiend, the Overfiend, or the daughter of Kyber, is actually a real thing and is the thing that generally corrupts good things to evil. Yeah. However, she can't escape Kyber. She's locked in the land below.
Oh, I'm going to have a lot of fun as we dig through all of it. Because the plan, folks, is we won't necessarily do all of the Eberron books in a row. But yes, I will bring Seraphis back and we'll do more of the books. So just give us time.
And because of how much I've been loving this setting for so long, and how I've got a character currently running for the last 2.5 years from this setting, I've been diving into these books, and there's just so much up here in my brain that I just want to spill out and nerd out about. And
that's what we're here for. Oh, and by the way, folks, he's been playing this dwarven artificer for 2.5 years, and they've gotten through 4 rooms. Just saying.
No.
Oh, come on, that was funny.
No, to be fair, we've gotten through 4 rooms in the last 6 months. We've gone up 3 levels in 2.5 years. At least be funny accurate is what I'm saying.
You're You ruined my joke. Anyways, let's move on.
It's
You're up.
3.5. Everything takes it forever. All right. Number 3. A world of magic. The setting supposes a world that developed not through the advance of science, but by the mastery of arcane magic. This concept allows for certain conveniences unimagined in other medieval timeframes. The binding and harnessing of elemental creatures makes airships and rail transport possible. A working class of minor mages uses spells to provide energy and other necessities in towns and cities. Advances in magic item creation have led to everything from self-propelled farming implements to sentient free-willed constructs.
Yeah, I think that kind of speaks for itself. Like Eberron brought it. I mean, Eberron brought in Warforged. They brought in, the sky ships, the lightning rail,
The tumbler.
The tumbler.
Oh, damn it!
Are you talking like the Batman car?
No. It's an earth ball. It's an earth ball that can burrow down. They use it for excavating down in like lower reaches, and basically it's a bound earth elemental, but there's a minor air elemental inside because it's so enclosed that otherwise people would suffocate inside of it.
Okay.
So they have a minor earth elemental inside to cycle air so that people don't suffocate. And yeah, they just transport people down underground and then it comes back up again. It's called a tumbler. I absolutely love it. It's the most amazing vehicle.
Okay, we're going to find out about this at some point, folks. Don't ask me when, because I don't even know what book that's from.
Magic of Eberron, I think.
Fair enough. We'll get there. All right. A world of adventure from the steaming jungles of Arenal to the colossal ruins of Zendrick, from the towering keeps of Sharn to the blasted hills and valleys of the Demon Waste. Eberron is a world of action and adventure. Adventures can and should draw heroes from one exotic location to another across nations, continents, and the entire world. The quest for the Mirror of the Seventh Moon may take the heroes from a hidden desert shrine to a ruined castle in the Shadow Marches, and finally to a dungeon deep below the Library of Korenberg. Through the use of magical transportation, heroes can reach a wider range of environments over the course of an adventure, and thus deal with a diverse assortment of monsters and challenges. So, I think one problem with this is it does give a sort of small world like feel to it. But I think you can still stretch stuff out. You can have like a lightning rail, can take days, or I'm not sure if they've got like easy teleportation systems. I mean, I know that magic exists for it, but I'm not sure like if there's a teleport. I don't think there's a teleportation booth system.
No, the closest you would come to that is the Mark of Travel or Mark of Transport, who run the Transport Guild, and they do have an elite service for teleportation between some places, but otherwise, yeah, the teleportation isn't an overly used spell in Eberron. You're more likely to encounter things like Dimension Door and things like that. Small little movements between spots.
Yeah. So, but I mean, but again, they like, I get what they're going for. I mean, you watch like Indiana Jones, and he's in the desert, he's in the jungle, he's back to the desert, up in the mountains, back to the desert, and then he's underwater for some reason. So, and that's all within the space of one movie.
Yeah. I just want to quickly say, I love the inclusion of the Library of Korenberg, because the scholars of Korenberg refuse to say that the sphere in which Eberron exists in is called Sibris space. They believe it should be called Koren space, because they were the ones who thought of it first, according to them.
All right. You're up.
All right. Number 5. The last war has ended. Sort of. The last war, which plunged the continent of Corvair into civil war more than a century ago, ended with the signing of the Treaty of Thronehold and the establishment of 12 recognized nations occupying what was once the Kingdom of Galifar, at least overtly. The peace has held off. Blah blah blah. The peace has held for almost 2 years as the campaign begins. The conflicts, the anger, and the pain of the long war remain, however, and the new nations seek every advantage as they prepare for the inevitable next war that will eventually break out on the continent.
Yeah, that's one thing that you'll notice as we go through, folks. So they say the last war has ended, but we're talking like, I think it's been what, or like officially it's been like 5 years since
6.
the end of the last 6. Okay, yeah. So for pretty much everyone, like the last war was quote unquote yesterday. So the writing, and I'm not sure how different it is in the newer stuff, but the writing for the original books was very much, dealing with the aftermath of a war. So
it was very much framed like post World War One, where it was coming out of the Great War, and everyone was like, "This could never happen again."
Right, but it's going to. It's very much alluding that things aren't sideways yet, but they're starting to lean.
Like it's going to take just a very enthusiastic nudge, and things are going to explode again.
Right, a nice gentle breeze. All right, the 5 nations. The human-dominated civilizations of the continent of Corvair trace a lineage to the ancient kingdom of Galifar, which was made up of 5 distinct regions or nations. These were Onder, Breland, Sire, Carnath, and Thrain. 4 of these survived to the present day as independent countries. Sire was destroyed before the start of the campaign, which I get putting mysteries in to a world, but the Sire and the Mournland is like ridiculously like vague. This happened. It's horrible, but we're not telling you how it happened.
Brian,
we're not telling you who's responsible. Or did I miss something?
you may want to read The Forge of War.
Okay. Was that the original Eberron books? The novels?
No. This is a supplement for the game.
Oh, okay.
I
think I have that one.
It has a vast, the vast majority of it is setting a game during the last war. And including how you might set a game in Sire or in
Sire. I've always said Sire.
Okay. I've been saying Sire, so then again, I've also heard Siri as well, so I've got no idea. So
I'm not setting off my watch.
But yeah, there's actually a few ideas of what may have actually happened.
Right, but again, ideas.
Yes, but these are ones written down in the books.
Sure, but again, they intentionally like leave it vague. They're like, well, it could be this, or it might be that, or it could be the other thing.
Well, according to Keith Baker, it's all of them. They all contributed to the Mournland, to the mourning.
Huh. All right. Well, we'll get it since it's an official book. We'll get there eventually. All right. All right. Continuing. The devastated territory it once occupied is now known as the Mournland. A common epithet among the people of Corvair is by the 5 nations or some version of thereof. The 5 nations refer to the ancient kingdom of Galifar and harkens back to a legendary time of peace and prosperity. Number 7.
Yep. Okay. Number 7, A World of Intrigue. The war is over, and the nations of Corvair now try to build a new age of peace and prosperity. Ancient threats linger, however, and the world desperately needs heroes to take up the cause. Nations compete on many levels: economic, political influence, territory, magical power, each looking to maintain or improve its current status by any means, short of all out war. Espionage and sabotage services. There. Espionage and sabotage services create big business in certain circles. The dragon marked houses, churches, both pure and corrupt, crime lords, monster gangs, psionic spies, God, arcane universities, royal orders of knights and wizards, secret societies, sinister masterminds, dragons, and a multitude of organizations and factions jockey for position in the afterglow of the last war. Eberron teems with conflict and intrigue.
All right. Dragon marked dynasties. The great dragon marked families are the barons of industry and commerce throughout Corvair and beyond. Their influence transcends political boundaries, and they remained mostly neutral during the last war. While not technically citizens of any nation, the matriarchs and patriarchs of each house live in splendor within their enclaves and emporiums located throughout Corvair. These dynastic houses of commerce derive their power from the dragon marks, unique hereditary arcane sigils that manifest on certain individuals within the family, granting them limited but very useful magical abilities associated with the trade guilds the family controls. So
Kundak.
Yeah. So
Sorry.
this you're fine. This I think this is kind of one of the defining aspects to me of Eberron that makes it feel a little different, makes it feel a little special. Just the fact that they, like you always hear about like medieval guilds and the thieves guild and all that kind of stuff. And this, I think, gives it a little bit more official structure. Like the Travelers Guild or the Hospitality Guild or
The Banking Guild.
Banking, exploration, literally whatever it is. There's an organization, and why that like why did the Thieves Guild show up, or why did the Merchants Guild, why does this particular group control it? And I think this was cool where they gave it a definition. It's like, well, this group controls it because they have the dragon mark that kind of lets them dominate it. Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, maybe you'll find an independent merchant. Maybe you'll find an independent, tavern owner, whatever. But the best stuff is going to come from this guild that controls it, essentially genetically, is how I would put it. So, anyways.
I'm not saying that if you want your money protected, you go to the dwarfs of Kundarak. But if you want your money protected and you want to be able to access your money anywhere in Corvair, you go to the Kundarak dwarves, We protect your money and your goods.
That was a nice attempt at a mafia accent. Well played.
Thank you. I'm absolutely horrible with accents.
I was going to say, the fact that you got pretty close with that fake Australian accent is pretty impressive.
Right.
All right. All right. Next one.
All right. Oh, yes. I get to cover the best one. Number 9, Dragon Shards. Ancient legends and creation myths describe Eberron as a world in 3 parts: the ring above, the subterranean realm below, and the land between. Each of these world sections is tied to a great dragon of legend: Sybaris, Kyber, and Eberron. Each section of the world produces stones and crystals imbued with arcane power: dragon shards. With dragon shards, dragon marks can be made more powerful, elementals can be controlled and harnessed, and magic items of all sorts can be crafted and shaped. These shards, however, are rare and difficult to come by, making them expensive and often the goals of great quests and adventures.
Yeah. So, like, I was trying to think of like, okay, what's something cool to say about dragon shards, and then I realized it's like if you need something to do for an adventure, it's an instant MacGuffin.
True.
You know, like, what are we doing today? Well, I'm trying to build this thing. Cool. We need a dragon shard. Let's go. All right. You're in a dungeon. There's dragon shards everywhere. Haha. You're getting eaten by, scorpion drow. Which we'll get into eventually, folks.
But I have to say, one of the coolest things about the dragon shards is that each one of them has a property unique to the dragon that it comes from. So, Kyber dragon shards are all about binding and taking control, right?
Okay.
Capturing that kind of stuff. Sybaris dragon marks are all about expanding, like meta magics, clerical powers, that kind of thing. Eberron dragon shards are all about basically finding that focus and that balance between them. So, there's a lot of artificer abilities, which I'm going to hearken slightly.
I'm sensing bias, folks.
Where if you had just a couple of Kyber dragon shards, you could solve a lot of problems. Like,
which is why they're so easy to get, right?
Maybe on Eberron they are, but where my artificer currently is, none. They don't exist, and I'm fuming, and I need to try and figure out a way to create artificial ones. But it's just like we mentioned the Warforged Wizard before. Book's staff, the crystals on that are actually Sybaris dragon shards. They allow him to essentially meta magic focus pretty much any spell he casts. That's why it's so powerful.
Got it.
Yeah, just they add so much to what you can do. And in Magic of Eberron, they expand exactly on the mechanics on how each dragon shard can actually be used and expanded on. So
all right.
That's really cool.
So yeah, we'll definitely get into that too, folks. All right. Okay, so number 10, new races. In addition to the common player character races found in the player's handbook, players can choose to play changelings, Kalashtar, shifters, and warforged in Eberron. Changelings are a race that evolved from the crossing of doppelgangers and humans, giving them minor shape-changing abilities. Kalashtar are planar entities merged with human hosts who are capable of becoming powerful wielders of psionic power. To fully utilize the Kalashtar and other psionic elements of the world, we strongly recommend the use of the expanded Psionics Handbook, which when I got rid of all of my 3.5 stuff, I think I got rid of the Psionics book, which is annoying.
Is funny because I don't know whether the original Eberron campaign setting came out before or after the complete psionics book came out, so that expanded psionics handbook might be irrelevant.
No, it is absolutely not irrelevant. Just like literally like the preferred class of Kalashtar is the Scion, which only exists in the expanded psionics handbook.
It doesn't exist in complete.
Right, because they did the complete psionics and then they did expanded psionics. But I think expanded psionics was just like, okay. So Malachi says, came out after complete psionics was 3.0, expanded was 3.5. Yeah, I knew that expanded was a revision of the original psionics book. But yeah, it's.
Ardent, Divine Mind, and Lurk were the new classes in complete.
I told you, folks. I'm bad at reading my books. That's why we're going through this. So I'm going to trust Seraphis on this. It's fine. Anyways, Shifters developed from a mixing of humans and lycanthropes, a union that grants them limited bestial abilities and feral instincts. The Warforged are sentient constructs created during the last war who developed free will and a desire to improve their position in the world. So this I also thought was interesting because so they've added 4 races, and these races actually get like a ton of like fancy abilities. Which,
oh yeah, and even more expanded upon when you get to races of Eberron too.
right, exactly. And so that actually, spoiler alert, folks, that's why the dragon marks exist, because they're all race coded. So like only halflings can have the mark of hospitality. But then there's like 3 different marks that humans can have, 2 that elves can have, 1 that humans or half elves can have. So there is some crossover, but basically it's like, okay, here's something cool for all of the other races that don't get, all of the cool abilities that the new races get, because there's a lot that the new races get.
But there is the aberrant dragon mark.
Again, we'll get there. No, well, go ahead.
There you go. Oh, yeah. I was going to say, but there's also the 13th dragon mark as well. The mark of death.
Right. Which is technically only an elf mark.
Yes. Even though it's only used and it is possessed by 1 elf.
Right, which I have to do some reading on. We'll get there, folks. Good. Like that's the worst part. Like you and I have enough information that's like, oh, we can talk about this. Like spoilers, folks. The Warforged are sentient constructs created during the last war who developed free will and a desire to improve their position in the world. All right. So I will read this last little section, then I'll let you close it off with the and now. So, all right. And now, as the lightning rail pulls into the station at First Tower, it's time to explore the world of Eberron and see what adventures await us. Grab your sword, gather your companions, and make sure you're ready for anything.
And now, how you approach the rest of this book depends on your own style and interests. If you want to know more about the particulars of the world and the story underlying the campaign setting, check out Chapter 7, Life in the World, and Chapter 8, Organizations. Or, if game mechanics are your first interest, turn the page and begin with Chapter 1, Character Races. If you come across an unfamiliar name or term anywhere in the book, you can use the index to locate more information on the topic.
There we go. All right. So, yeah, we're just going to go through it in order, folks. So, yet, even though you want to know life in the world and organizations, you're going to have to wait. So like with our next episode, which should be next week, just keep that in mind, folks. This is going to be a little bit. Actually, I'm going to try to not have this in flux. Be aware at some point there might be a shift in time schedule. Because apparently Bear does want to bring back the 4-color cafe, although there's no specific times on that. Anyways, so that's the introduction to Eberron. I should stop talking about what's coming up in the future and just we can talk about any last thoughts about actually, you know what? Okay, that was the thought that I had. No, this isn't gaming with ADHD where we jump across from topic to topic. Right? So, okay, so one of my biggest struggles with Dungeons and Dragons has always been the player's handbook. Okay? You open up the player's handbook, and what does it say? Here, make a character. Why? Yeah. Why should I make a character? What am I doing with this character? It doesn't tell you anything. It just says make a character. And Eberron, which everyone always says, oh, well, you got to pick your campaign setting, and then it tells you. Eberron, like, this is literally what any role-playing game should be. Like, as far as an introduction. This is what's happening. This is what's happening. These are the kinds of characters you can be. This is something interesting, and at least it's giving you some sort of a hook before it's throwing you at rules. You know, like, it doesn't start with, hey, here's how to make a character in Eberron. Here are new races in Eberron. What does any of that mean? And the fact that they actually give you that number 10, the new races. Hey, all of the other stuff exists, but here's some new ones. Here's what they're like. And at least it gives you that initial taste of, you know what? I'm going to go learn more about Warforged, or I want to know more about Shifters. And it gives you a taste before throwing you into the rules. And I really, really like that about that book. So, any last comments about the introduction, Seraphis?
I'm sorry for multiple interruptions that we ended up answering and reading out anyway.
No, dude, that's how we're supposed to do this.
Chaos.
Yes. All right. So, folks, I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the like button. If you're a fan of Eberron, put comments down below. That's what we're here for. We want to talk about this. We want to dive into it. So, what is coming up next? So next week, we are still kind of feeling this out. We spent obviously about, an hour going through just the introduction, which is only like 4 pages out of the whole book. So my goal is to cover at least a chapter in one of these episodes. But I'd like to get to at least 2. So we will play that by ear because, there are a lot of time constraints. So we're gonna have to adjust based on that. So
the next chapter is 17 pages.
Well, maybe we'll have to interrupt a little less. I don't know. Well, again, Seraphis, we're gonna. That's why we're starting with a 20-year-old book. Maybe people don't care about it, but it can help us figure out our timing, things like that. So, anyways, so next week, do plan on us getting started with chapter 1. And no, Grim, don't put any tape on his mouth. It's fine. He did just great today. Anyways, so it'll be the same time on Wednesdays if you're here in the United States. Seraphis likes to pretend he's in the future. Daylight
savings is starting in a few weeks too. That's going to really mess up our whole schedule.
Well, I'm not. Well, I don't do daylight savings time, so it's going to stay the same time. Anyways, we'll figure that out, folks. But 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time is when we're going to do this. If you all change your clocks, that's not my fault. So come back next week. If there are any changes to what time we do this at, we'll warn you all before the next episode. But otherwise, folks, thanks for hanging out with us. I hope you enjoyed it. Any last parting thoughts? Oh, go subscribe to Seraphis. He's a good dude. Let's get him up to 1,000.
Yeah, but as long as you don't mind like C bombs and F bombs and
I don't control his channel, but it doesn't make him a bad dude. So and I think he'll get monetized and very excitable. I think he'll get monetized. He's just being dramatic. So, All right. Well, folks, I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. Thanks so much for hanging out, and we will